So we are live now. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Welcome to Survive and Thrive, the history of women in streetwear. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to jump in. My name is Tamika and I'm the marketing manager at Yellowbrick, and I'm here with April Walker, who will introduce herself shortly. Hope everyone's trying to stay cool, because I don't know about where you're at, but in New York City, it's hot.
Hot. I was out early this morning working out, and I came inside. Like the rest of the day, I'm inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hot.
It's legit like desert heat.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Joanne, I'm sorry. Hi, Joanne. She just chimed in the chat and she says she's excited.
I'm excited as well, Joanne. Joanne, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm relying on Tamika to help us out. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be here and share.
I wear my contacts now because with having to wear a face mask outside.
Yeah, it's a lot. My glasses steam up when I'm out.
Yeah.
So I have on my sunglasses or anything. I'm actually considering the surgery. And I only need them for reading glasses right now, but it's getting serious. Like I can still see.
Hey, Gregory. Nope, this session is not for women only. It's about the history of women in streetwear, so you are welcome.
Hi, Gregory.
Shanique, I see your questions. I'm going to hold it until we talk about that part, but I see you. All right. One more minute and then we'll get started.
Okay.
And we're glad you're here as well, Gregory. Shanique said, my shirt came April. Tiff Mills said, so excited for this. We're excited. I'm glad that you guys are here.
Thank you, Shanique, for supporting. I appreciate you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this very interesting Women in Streetwear conversation. It's part one of a two-part series called Survive and Thrive. And I would like to welcome April Walker to the set. She is one of the pioneers and women of streetwear, and she's been here since the beginning. And I feel like she's gonna continue to be here, but she's joining us today to give us the backstory to the history of women in streetwear. And I hope you guys have pen and paper because I'm sure she's gonna be dropping gems. So April, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on this very hot day. It's 98 degrees here in New York City, but I'm really excited to be here just to share. My name is April Walker. For those that don't know, I am a pioneer. I'm a trailblazer. I hate saying pioneer because it sounds like ancient, even though it was a very long time ago. I started out in the 80s and fell in love with hip hop. And as a result, I started creating clothing that led me into becoming eventually known as a trailblazer of the category streetwear. But it really started out of a passion that I had. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm from Brooklyn, and I really love sharing and also telling our history and also educating the masses, or I'd like to say having other people discover new things. So I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. First and foremost, let's talk streetwear. So when you hear the word streetwear, I feel like I asked that question to a lot of different people in a lot of different interviews. And I think depending upon where you fit in the streetwear timeline, your answer is different. So I'm excited to ask you, when you hear the word streetwear, what does that mean to you?
Streetwear is like, so I have that's a two-part answer. And I feel like streetwear for me was born out of seeing a void in the marketplace, meaning like we were listening to the music and we loved it was a form of self-expression in hip hop, the music, but there was no uniform or no fashion that was there in the stores. Like we were ripping up our jeans, we were blinging our clothes, we were bleaching everything. We were creating, taking, manipulating whatever existed, but we couldn't go in the store and find that. So for us, it was about creating that. That's what I wanted to do, create something that I didn't see but felt. And so I think that for me, if I had to put a definition to it, I would say it's a uniform for culture that was created, right? And it was lifestyle. It's really lifestyle fashion. I think that it's hard for me to, I also think that it can be a trick. It's a tricky thing because I think that category can box us in sometimes. And I think that, you know, when I look at other fashion, some fashion is just fashion, right? It's not necessarily, I mean, you have luxury brands, you have et cetera, but then you have some that's just considered very much a broad, wide of fitting a lot of different spectrums of people. But I think that when you say streetwear, it automatically it becomes stereotypical now. But the truth of the matter is, when I travel the world, I see streetwear everywhere. You know, whether it's in Barcelona or in Venice or in New York City, streetwear exists everywhere, and it's become part of pop culture. So I really think it's become very broad in its spectrum of people and everything. So it's a uniform. It's how we express ourselves.
So, as you being one of the people at the forefront when this whole uniform started, um, I think you impacted the fashion and music industries for years from the beginning of when you guys started doing this. So, can you highlight some of the moments where you and other women influenced some of the trends and fashion decisions in hip hop?
Okay. So I think for me, being in the beginning, it was like, it was passion, right? It was just really fulfilling, creating. It was a sense of wanting to create that that feeling that we were feeling about hip hop, because hip hop was such an anti-establishment factor when it started. Think about Public Enemy, Don't Believe the Hype, all of this. This is when I started. I started in 1987, you know, and it was definitely like um, we were breaking in doors, and the spirit of entrepreneurship for hip hop was just really catching on. I remember going to Fresh Fest and seeing at Madison Square Garden Run DMC on stage with black leather pants and like fedoras and saying wow, and shell toe Adidas, and thinking everything I learned about Dress for Success was a lie, and I could create and write my own ticket, you know. So for us, that just was like, okay, let's just create like what we feel. Um, and I think that I got off on a tangent. See, take me back to you, because I'm about to go into a whole nother direction.
And so I was gonna kind of let you go because I think I know where you were going.
But the one
But
in the street where you were asking me about those
yeah,
moments.
just to bring people, I guess, to where you actually made the marks. What
Right.
were some of the iconic moments where people say, "Oh, I know that you
So for
influenced"?
me, it would be, I think what put us on the map in a big way was our rough and rugged suit. I would have to claim denim first, right? We made this suit and it was called the rough and rugged suit, and we made it in colors that would hook up to Timberlands, because Timberlands were like the shoe, the boot at that time in the 80s and the early 90s. And it was everything that, and so we would take colors that were earth tones, because that was kind of where New York was at. It was very gritty, think very, it was not like gentrified now, you know, it was something different. So we picked black, we picked navy, we picked oatmeal, we picked olive green, we picked tan, we picked colors that were muted earth tones. And it really was like a customer that we were serving, we were very clear on, right? And so hip hop wasn't really happy at that time. It wasn't really, it was just very much the CNN of what we were feeling. So that suit we did, and how we flipped it was no one was really doing contrast stitching. So we made really obvious contrast stitching, but the contrast stitching is what would actually hook up with your Timberland. So let's say you had on a navy um, rough and rugged suit, the contrast stitching would be in something we call golden clothes. And the logo would be embroidered in golden clothes. So it was just that hint, but they would match your golden clothes Timberlands, and that's the way we kind of like, we hooked it up and it became a uniform. I remember we did a suit for EPMD was one of our early customers, and then Biggie was an early customer, and then Run DMC was an early customer. And I remember, I think between those three in the very beginning, it just like caught a fire. And, then Naughty by Nature and Tupac and, Queen Latifah and a lot of MC Light, they all started wearing that suit, and it became, it made people say, what is that? Because they were all representing the logo. And that really put us on the map. When I think about another moment with another woman, and it's timely, is Misa Hilton, right? So Misa Hilton, I met Misa when I was doing a lot of work with Def Jam, because people don't know, I had a styling company. So I was styling a lot of these artists as well. And I was doing a lot of work with Def Jam. And I met Misa. She was still an intern, and she was interning with Rhonda Cowan, who was at Def Jam. And she was just as sweet as she is now, just as caring. And she went on to start working at Uptown Records with Puffy. And so when you think about, she has so many iconic looks, but one of my favorites is when she had, if you remember the Little Kim video, which is a long time ago, but the different colored wigs with the furs, and it was very, very tonal. It was just like, you never seen like a red wig and a red fur, and a purple wig and a purple fur, and a bodysuit, and like what with that attitude. And it just really was a game changer, or the pasty at the MTV Awards when she did the pasty with Little Kim. And then, everybody was like, oh, but then everybody copied it. So those were iconic looks that I can say off the cuff.
I was gonna say, with the wigs and the fur, I feel like she set the tone with that, like even till now, because a lot of the girls or the women coming up now, they have that same style, that flair. They definitely are picking out of some of the looks that you guys established, way back. I say way back, like it was so long ago. I mean, I guess it was, but way back in the 90s, but you guys definitely set the tone. I mean, and that's the best part. So recently, I know you've been shooting some work, doing some work, having some things going on. And one of your shooters is one of my favorite photographers, Jeanette Beckman, who is another iconic person in the culture, because she is responsible for documenting a lot of the images of the artists that we see. I remember she told the story of shooting Slick Rick and how she took all these photos, and it was that first photo with him posing in such a way that was the winner. But
everything.
You guys document the culture, you curate the culture, and you give us the footsteps for how to move forward. When did you guys first meet and work together? How did you guys maintain such a relationship, and why is maintaining these relationships so important, especially in this industry?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, let me start by saying, I think Walkerwear, a lot of our success was built on relationships. And I think that if I could offer one thing to anyone on this Zoom webinar, is build relationships and do more than just be on Instagram and social media and emails. You will go so much further if you take it the extra if you go the extra mile by um, meeting people face to face, looking at them in their eye, taking that time to get the 15 minutes. Like we used to actually like take people to dinner um, and sit with them and share and pour into them and invest in our time with other people, because that's how you build relationships. And it's not overnight. Like it's never overnight. If it's overnight, it's a flyby situation. You need to build, and that takes time. And most people um, that are solid individuals, it takes a while to build trust. So it takes a while to build relationships. And I can, if I could offer anything, I would say what you mean and mean what you say, because that's going to go so far for you. If you can't do something, just be honest about something. If
Mm-hmm.
you can't do it, be honest. So the way I met Jeanette was I was styling. And in that styling, I had a job, I believe it was with Run DMC, and she was shooting them. And her office, her studio, her photography studio was behind Tower Records on, I believe that's Jones Street, which was at the time um, right around the corner from Def Jam. Def Jam
Mm-hmm.
was on Broadway. And right behind there on Lafayette, Jeanette Beckman had a photography studio. And Russell Simmons was like, I need you to go around the corner and meet Jeanette Beckman to talk to her about this creative part of the shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went there, she was working and I was much younger than she was. She was already in the game. I was coming in the game. I was just really getting on the map, and I was styling, and she was busy, but she was listening to me. We were talking creatively, and she asked me, okay, well, how much, about my price for the styling. And I told her my price, and she was quiet, and she just kept doing whatever she was doing. And matter of fact, she kind of looked at me like, um, darling, you should always start high. You can
Mm-hmm.
always come down, but you can never start low and go up. Word travels fast. That was a jewel, everybody. It was a jewel for me, and I'm passing it on to you. Know your worth. And I took it right then and I got it. And I was like, wow, she didn't have to tell me anything. She could have just put more in her pocket because it was like an all in budget. But
Mm-hmm.
she fooled me, being another woman. That always stayed with me. So we built a relationship. We did not see each other much. But I think that recently in Dubai, I went to Dubai in December with a project with a really dope culture exhibit called Soul that happens once a year in Dubai, and I was on a panel there. And so we were both on the panel and we both traveled together. So we hung out the whole time we were there. And while we were there, we were talking about like the culture and how we're still here 3 decades later and like shooting and doing fashion and all this cool stuff. And who would have known, you know what I mean? And us being like some of the only women um, that have really, there are a lot, but that have really been able to still stay creative in our spaces and become predominantly working with men. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we were like, why we should shoot together. And so that was the first conversation. And then this opportunity came up with Pattern Magazine, and they called, and that was facilitated through Jeanette. And I said, yeah, I'll do it if we can do it with Jeanette. And so we collaborated on that project, and that's how we came to create something together, which was really special and magical. And I thought it was like you probably just were suggesting, it was really magical because it was two culture creators or culture shifters that have really gone to depth and being women in an all male dominated industry and still telling a story.
Mm-hmm. I just want to make a comment. Sandy Gordon, who's joining us um, on the Zoom today, she said in regards to what you spoke about nurturing relationships, that's super helpful because she's constantly being told about influencer marketing. but not about the importance of nurturing relationships. And I think that's where a lot of disconnect comes in, and a lot of relationships are superficial and kind of on the surface because everyone's focused on just that marketing piece and not the nurturing part, where the nurturing part is where you get the authenticity from. And
Right.
that's what makes it legit. Like, that's what makes it real.
Yeah, genuinely listen to people,
Mm-hmm.
genuinely hear them, genuinely think of them as human and not like, I think a lot of times we have our goals and that's
Mm-hmm.
great, but we can't just be thinking about tunnel vision like what we want. If we're really committed to this, we have to get to know people and understand we're all human and be very kind about that. You know what I mean? And understanding that if you invest in people, people will see that.
Mm-hmm.
Just be pure. It will come back tenfold over time. It's not a short game, guys. This is a marathon. And I can attest to that, you know?
So you and Jeanette were started in the beginning. Y'all still here now. How hard was it for you guys to stand out in such a male-dominated industry? Tip your hat.
Yeah, like, okay. It was very difficult. You know, it was very difficult and it was like playing chess because when I started, hip hop was very misogynistic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's a funny story because I think about it. And honestly, I would not have made it without men. Men have supported me in a big way. When I think about the people who wore the clothes, you know, they paid for the clothes, a lot of them, you know, that was back when you didn't have to give everything away. So, you know, they really, so I remember Shaquille O'Neal calling me for his album cover and his videos and his movies, and he paid every time. He never asked for anything free. LL Cool J doing their tour, you know, they paid for that. It was like they wanted to support black brands. You know what I mean? And it was culture. We were all tribe members figuring it out. So I think I'm gonna say I think if my product was whack, it wouldn't have mattered. They wouldn't have supported. But you know, I really did prepare and have product that was the lifestyle, and we were really about that life. Like we were serious. We set things in place. Like we were able to turn things around in 24 hours, which was necessary at that time because you know the entertainment industry is so much different. It's like you got to be quicker. So my thing is, it was harder in the sense that we had to, as women, we had to be faster, we had to be better, we had to be, I'm gonna say 10 times as better because, and then you also had to know when to be silent, which was very hard because a lot of the stuff we knew, we had to make actual men, we had to make men think a lot of times it was their idea in order to execute, you know, but it's like for a greater good. Do you want to work together, or is your ego attached? Do you really care who gets the credit as long as you get the work done? So those are the kind of decisions I had to make as a woman, and then also down to the way I dressed, you know, early on. Like today I'm dressing tomboy, but you know, then it wasn't a choice. We had to almost like make sure we were being not too fly when we went to a meeting, not too feminine, because we didn't want the distraction there for you to come sideways at us to
Mm-hmm.
do business. And still sometimes it happened, but it happened less when you come in there like focus and we're about this business, etc. So we had to make all those decisions, like from our dress to all of these things. I don't think men had to make those decisions, you know. Men didn't have to worry about let me make this think it's her idea. You know what I mean? And the biggest thing I can remember is deciding not to let people know Walkerwear was owned by a woman, you know, for a long time, because I felt like if people thought that it was a female designer behind a men's brand at that time, that it might fail. So I played the background and just let the product speak for itself first.
And that's so crazy because even though we're here now in 2020, and for you that started so many years ago, we're still, some of those challenges still exist, not only in streetwear but across.
I think about that all the time. It's heartbreaking for me.
That we really have, things have changed,
But we have a lot of work to do still.
100%. So earlier this year, you opened up the Women in Streetwear exhibit at the Port Authority. Can you give us a verbal description of that exhibit for those of us who didn't get to see it? Because the world kind of went left,
Right.
like as that started bubbling. So can you just give us a, a visual, a verbal visual, so that we can kind of get an idea of what it was?
So we did an exhibit at the Port Authority bus terminal, which might feel like, why'd you do it there? But we did it there because it's nestled literally right next to the fashion industry. And every day, thousands and thousands, I think it's like, I forget how many thousand, but it's like almost 500,000 people that come through there, you know, and a lot of them come through for the fashion industry that come from New Jersey traveling, etc. So we just thought it was a great conduit to tell the story. And the story for me was I wanted to produce an exhibit that highlighted other women's voices that have been culture shifters and contributed to the fashion industry in different ways, not just the designer. Though I did feature designers, I wanted to, it's like a wheel and there's spokes on a wheel, right, to make an industry happen. So I wanted to show that and really, I mean, when we say streetwear, most of the time, most people just automatically think men. So I wanted to pay homage to some of the women who really built this machine. And I know that I looked at it as long term. So that was the first exhibit, but we'll be doing more when we get through this pandemic and telling more stories of more women. But we featured, the way we set it up was we literally had a long, like showcase exhibit. So imagine like this glass encased exhibit with, in the middle, it had our story, which was what I just told you, why the exhibit was happening. And then I highlighted all the women that were being featured. And they were everybody from Kitty, who is Kianja, who, if you guys all know Fubu, she was the female women's director for Fubu. She was on the Netflix show Next in Fashion that just came on. She was also, if you know, Rihanna's line. She designed some of Rihanna's line. She's done so much in the industry. Lisa Hilton, I just talked about her. Samantha Black, Sammy B, Sophia Chang, who is a great footwear designer. Elena Romero, who is a professor at FIT, but she actually was at Women's Wear Daily and DNR back in the day, and she was the one who broke our stories because no one else would write about our fashion because they didn't respect it enough, but she made it mainstream. So she wrote a book called How Hip Hop Changed the Fashion Industry. And anyway, so Shara McHale, PNB Nation, Sharifa Murdoch, I'm trying to think if I forgot, Tony Grant, House of Swag, my sister, she's from Houston, and she has a great line and it's dope. You know, she does I Am One Dope Chick. Anyway, it was a bunch of us and myself, you know, but it told everyone's story. And next to the stories, we actually had mannequins, and the mannequins actually showed a piece of their wear and highlighted their actual story. So it was really dope. I thought it was great. But right after we had our press conference, they announced that same week, at the end of the week, that we were going into a pandemic. So it kind of stole our thunder, and I do understand the pandemic was much more pressing, so I'm very forgiving, but we'll do it again.
So I know someone is asking, Ariel said She loves to focus on female streetwear designers, and it's a very understudied topic. I agree 100%.
Me
She
too.
said Elena is amazing, and she wants to know if there's an online aspect to the exhibit.
There should be, right? Maybe we'll create one because we have amazing photos from that exhibit. And I think that's a great suggestion, Ariel, to create an actual, in the meantime, a virtual experience. So thank you.
Well, I remember David. I think David was at our instructional designer at Yellowbrick. He was there, I think at the opening.
Okay.
He might have some footage, so I'm definitely going to ask him and see if we can actually make that happen.
Yeah, I think we should. That's a great idea.
And then taking it back a year further to Tribeca Film, which also kind of got shut because of the pandemic, but last year, the documentary, the remix, hip hop and fashion. I don't want to say this wrong, but it was directed by Farrah X, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And Lisa Cortez.
Yes. So it debuted at Tribeca Film. I know it was a really big deal, and I think that was when I think I may have been on the red carpet, and I think you walked past me, and I think you went to interview the person next to me, but let's talk about that film, the messages behind it, and what are some of the takeaways from it.
That film is telling the story of culture shifters and unsung, I like to say unsung heroes. And I think it's a strong lens on Lisa Hilton. And then it also includes myself and Kirby, Don Raymond. And it also has Dapper Dan and Elena and other culture shifters and people who have been in the industry and watch it grow. And it kind of tells the story of how this lane was created. And like we talk about trends, like we talk about the industry of streetwear, building it out. And it's really good. Like I can say that the directors were female directors, Farrah X and Lisa Cortez. I met Lisa Cortez almost 30 years ago working at Def Jam. So she's heavily been in the industry, has a strong lens on it. It was a passionate project she saw because she wanted to tell our stories. So she came to me and asked would I be involved as far as asking to hear my voice in it. So I shared in it. And then when I got to see it, I thought it was a wonderful project. And it also was, I have to plug them to say that it was 90% female crew. And I've never seen that before. So they went out of their way to hire females for this project. And that said a lot about their commitment. But the project is coming out, guys. That's the main thing. Thank you. It's Wednesday. Netflix is gonna launch it on Wednesday, and they're picking it up in the United States, in Africa, in UK, Australia. So you can have a chance to see it. I suggest you all see it because it's really it's gonna give you more insight and depth into what we're talking about now, and I think you guys would appreciate it.
Now, are you guys going to preview, I guess, with a conversation before Wednesday? Yeah. So Wednesday is going to debut on Netflix.
And Wednesday at 1:00, we're also going to do a talk. And I'll post that talk later today. I wanted to make sure that I posted our talk first, but I will start posting it after this. So if you go to my page, you'll see it. I'm going to put up a whole post so you can join in. The female quotient is going to facilitate that conversation. And it's going to be with the directors, and all of the cast and everything. So it should be fun, or most of the cast, the female cast anyway.
And it's called The Remix, Hip Hop Fashion Documentary.
Hip Hop Fashion.
Okay. Ooh, I can't wait to see that.
It's good. You were probably busy on the red carpet, but I know you were.
Yeah. I did that one, and then I had to go run into another one because, as you know, Tribeca Film, you're like,
you're doing all different ones. So.
Yeah, yep. So here we are, fast forward 2020. How has the presence of women in streetwear changed over the years since you've come in?
I mean, the nice thing about from when I came in is I really was the only one. And so right after I came in, Camilla came in,
Mm-hmm.
Camilla L from 555 Cell. And then Shara, Mikhail from PNB Nation. And, you know, it just, you know, there were women in it, not all sustained over the years, but there have been a lot of women that have been in the industry. It's just we don't get the same light as men. It's very indicative to me of the world we live in, right? It's a microcosm of the bigger world. If we look at just corporate play at hand and what happens in the boardrooms, if you look at corporations, if you look at men versus women, it's the same thing, but probably worse in fashion, which is crazy because we spend the most money in it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the nice thing about the changes is I see a lot more women creating, and I see a lot more women in the industry. Regardless, like I have a lot of sisters in the industry now that are creating and that are independent or working for um, a, a design house. You know, so there are a lot more in the game that have skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that technology has changed the game because where I had to produce like 1,200 pieces and pray that we would have to either pre-sell it or sell into it, you can actually create a line on Instagram and have proof of concept and not have to actually create inventory. So you can see if something works. By throwing something on the gram, and if you don't get a hit on it, you're like, all right, we're not going to create that. You know, there's so
Mm-hmm.
many tricks you can do that we didn't have that ability to do because of social media. Like we actually would have to go to the club to try to meet the manager or the artist, or we would have to go out and do a lot of foot. We would have to hit those streets and actually do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine now you have social media. If you guys don't do that as much, but imagine if you did both. That's what I'm saying. Find ways to have a point of differentiation, and I think that that was one thing. Technology is another. We have way more options in terms of fabrications, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what's available to us in creating. It was very linear then. Now it's expanded so much. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's very luxury driven now. It's funny, when I first started, it was luxury driven. People don't know that, but we kind of shifted it from that. When I came in, like prior to me coming in, we were coming out of this stage. When I was in high school, we were dressing in Louis Vuitton and Gucci and MCM and all of that. And then we kind of came in on some, no, it's all black, think X-Clan and all of this stuff that was going
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
It went very red, black, and green and pro-black brands. That's how the black brands were created, and like for us, by us, and all of this. So I see like that potential right now for that to happen if we make it a permanent situation, especially in the climate of today.
So Joanne, hi Joanne, thank you for joining us today. She says that it's very challenging, that streetwear is a very challenging industry for women in streetwear fashion, and most men haven't supported that, especially in Dallas. Streetwear is not big in Dallas, and it's been a challenge for her.
Right.
So, you being a streetwear designer, entrepreneur, all of that, what are some, I guess, quick tips and I guess a good foundation for her to look to for advice or help to kind of get going?
Diane, I'm not sure what you're creating without seeing it, but what I can tell you in that streetwear category, general advice, I would say now is the time to take a step back and look at the industry at the top of the year. I'm sure you had certain goals and you had a certain vision, and then we all got hit with this pandemic. And that wasn't something any of us could have expected, but it's a game changer. So through every crisis is a moment for opportunity. So I would say to step back and just take a few days off to marinate in what you're creating now and think about pivoting and how you could pivot, still keeping streetwear, but how that might be different when we come out on the other side of this. What is the world going to look like? And what should my trajectory be now, knowing that? And think about creating from that space. It might be different distribution. It might be different in a virtual world, and then a little sprinkling of some face-to-face. And then what that protocol looks like, it might be something totally different. I'm just talking right now, but knowing that we are, another big factor is sustainability. You think about that how do you merge that with streetwear right now? Because that's not a hot topic. It's something that's not going to go away. The world is changing and we're leaning more and more into sustainability. And then think about, I don't know who you're serving in your audience, but you need to really drill down into that audience. What are their concerns? If it's millennials, you need to think and know that millennials care about what they're buying. What are you supporting? So what are you supporting? Whatever that is, own it and speak on it and make it known to the world, because that's going to be a tribe.
So aside from killing us in the streetwear industry, you also wrote a book called Walker Gems, Get Your Ass Off the Couch.
Right.
Which is full of gems, and is a great resource for anyone who's looking to start a business. What advice, without taking too much from the book, but very quick, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are looking to start a streetwear related business or just a business in general, especially now during this time?
That I'm gonna circle back to taking a step back and really looking at what life is going to look like 5 years from now, than thinking about starting today. If we're thinking about what we could start with today, we're already late, because time is moving so exponential that we need to be thinking about the future and have that in mind when we create. So how can we serve the world? Because the world is going to lead. It needs a lot of serving. If you can think about a solution to that, you're in the game. You're in the game. And I would also say that start with where you are, with what you have. Don't wait. Sometimes we have to create an opportunity and not wait for it, and we're never ready when you start, if that comforts you. If it's making you shake in your boots, it's okay. We all start, and we're nervous when we start, but the point is to get started and be committed to it. And once you do that, the world will conspire to assist you. Doors will open, tools will come your way. If you're seeking, you'll gain more knowledge, you'll circle up in your tribe. All of those things will come, but you have to be committed to winning and committed to serving and committed to the process. And that's where a lot of us get lost in thinking like it needs to, I started, where are the results? The results don't come overnight, especially in the fashion industry, you guys. If I could offer that, is knowing that if this is a long game industry, if you're in it to get in and out, probably not this, unless you have like 20 million to drop in the bucket and you want to just get in and have and that doesn't exist anymore because of technology. It's not the top 40 anymore, it's the top 440. So you gotta know that I'm gonna have a space, this is gonna be my niche, and I'm gonna go hard on that, and just really trust the process.
You're also an industry expert in the Streetwear Essentials course that we created with Parsons and Complex. Just have a brain fog. Parsons and Complex. If you were starting out in streetwear, how could this course have possibly helped you kind of get on the path to where you wanted to take your brand, your business, your fashions, etc.?
This webinar is like 2 minutes of you could get so much unpacked in the Streetwear Essentials. So we're like talking in the hour we have, but think about, what I'm talking about. Now think about it taking you through design in detail, taking it through product development, taking it through sales, taking it through marketing, they taking it to real life application of people who have built it and done it, and using examples and understanding how, and then being able to take that away and now apply that into your equation in your own way, because now you not only have the knowledge, but you have people who have done it and proven the success formula. So you don't have to recreate something. It's there for you. You already understand it.
So now we've all been smashed into this quarantine pandemic now / revolution, because there's a lot of different things going on right now. And I feel like we've had to adjust everyday life, creative processes,
Yes.
etc. So how has this quarantine changed your creative process? And tomorrow, for those of you who didn't know, we're going to go into a self-care talk. Just basically being in the industry, how to keep yourself sane. Self-care is super important. Even if you're not in this particular industry, in any industry, self-care plays a major role in how you're going to be successful. But sorry, back to my question. How has quarantine changed your creative process, your daily process? Like, how has that shifted for you?
Well, it stopped me in my tracks, right? Because you have all these plans and then life has other ones. So that's the first thing. And then, like, honestly, guys, if we're honest, we're dealing with super heavy stuff, like a pandemic, racial equality, fighting for racial equality, um, not knowing. We have to have extreme faith right now, because this is having the ability to see the unseen, but we can't see the unseen because we do not know, right? But just trusting the process. That's all I can do right now, is trust the process of life. So in that, I have to be okay with understanding what I can control and what I can't. And I know what I can control is the way I respond to the things happening in life. And that starts with self-care. So for a while, it took me a while to just tune everything out. Not totally, because it wasn't that I didn't care, right? I was super passionate about everything happening, but I had to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
It's called notice and let go. That's what I call myself, notice and let go. It's something that I do when I meditate. And I just let go of my schedule immediately, in terms of an immediate, like, hardcore schedule, because I understand, and this isn't like an overnight thing. I have these gray hairs for a reason. It's taken years to get here, but understanding as a creative, as a serial entrepreneur, as a woman, as a Blexican woman, there are so many issues that face us daily. And so if we don't put our own parachute on first, our own mask on first, we don't learn how to breathe, nothing else makes sense. Our dreams, our lives, because we are literally in fight or flight mode every day. And that eventually catches up with us. So I'm speaking from burnout experience. I've learned how to listen to myself. And your body will talk to you, your mind will talk to you. If you're mindful enough, you can hear those thoughts. And that takes practice when you've been, like, as a creative, what I can tell you guys is a lot of us mask dysfunctional behaviors with saying we're passionate about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a culprit, so I'm speaking from a firsthand experience. We love what we do, and that can create a addictive behavior. And we can find ourselves working 6 and 7 days a week and looking up like, oh, wow, I worked 10 hours today, 12-hour days. Imagine doing that for years.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a toll on you. So what I have learned is to have a toolbox. And my toolbox is my kit of being at the best optimal optimizing my human experience, and that's mind, body, and soul. And I do things that are non-negotiable, just like I make being here non-negotiable. I'm here. So if I can show up for everyone else, you need to be able to show up for yourself. And everyone can have a different toolbox, but I implore you to have a toolbox and take the time to figure out what that is. It's not overnight. It's taken me a few years to know what stuff. And then after that, I start applying. And if it, as a human and as an adult, if you're starting this behavior, it's going to be a lifelong journey, but that's okay. We could fall off the wagon, but the good thing is we've put in these practices and we know, okay, I'm off balance. Let me get back on balance.
Right.
Just be kind to yourself. So I think tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about that.
I'm excited. I will bring my own pen and paper for that tomorrow.
I'm excited. It's something that I'm passionate about, so I'm excited.
Really quick, we have 2 questions. The other ones we kind of answered as we went along, but we have 2 left.
Okay.
An anonymous attendee is asking, because streetwear has its roots in Black culture, as an Asian American designer, is it okay for me, as an Asian American woman and as a designer, is it okay for me to participate in streetwear culture or create my own streetwear brand? And if yes, how do I participate and create while still respecting and honoring the roots of the culture?
I think that's a great question. And it's funny, my niece is living with me now. She moved here from Tokyo. And she's 16 now. Me and her have this discussion because she's honestly interfacing with her tribe in Tokyo and relaying a lot of what's going on here in the States as it relates to this racial equality journey that we're on to fight for our rights and to be seen as humans, right? So I'm going to use it to culture and say, I absolutely think it's okay for anyone to join in on streetwear. Streetwear is a global phenomenon at this point. I think that what's important is the respect, right? And you just said it, like it was started by Black culture and giving homage and being respectful. I think it's not about participating, it's about the narrative, you know? And I think there's a difference in appreciation versus appropriation. And understanding that you can go ahead and create from there because you know you have a lens now on what that is. So I'd love to see what you create as you create.
Thank you. I wish I knew your name. I don't want to call you anonymous attendee, but thank you so much for your question. And the last question, we kind of answered this, but really quick. As a designer, what advice would you give someone interested in opening up their own boutique, whether an in-person store or online? And that's from Taji D'Souza.
Okay, Taji. I would say I'm not doing a shameless plug, but I would definitely say to get my book, Walker Gems, Get Your Ass Off the Couch, because it honestly is a walk of my journey with a lot of gems in it that would help you and some tools on a startup and worksheets, et cetera, to get your mindset in place as you're doing your streetwear brand. And that you can find on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, on my website. I would also say that you need to take a step back from just what you want to create and think about the future right now as it's going to look, as you can imagine it, because none of us really know, but thinking about the differences about when you woke up in January, it's very different right now, right? In protocol and what you can do, and you can't do this, you can't go here, you have to wear a mask, all of these things, right? So imagine 5 years from now, what's life gonna be like? And think about creating whatever you wanna create from that lens versus the one you had in January when you had that dream.
Thank you, Taji.
Thank you.
Okay, we almost hit it to the 3-minute mark. We did it. Thank you so much for those of you who tuned in today. tomorrow we will be kicking off with Survive and Thrive Part 2. And the focus is going to be self-care. So if you have questions, please bring them. Dress comfortably, wear pajamas. No. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow. Also tomorrow, we're going to announce the winners from today and tomorrow's registration RSVP for the scholarships. So I strongly suggest that you tune in, and this way you can find out if you won. And we'll talk soon. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.